So it can really be difficult for fearful avoidant attachment styles to communicate with their partners. And what I've done is put together a small video series for what fearful avoidant women want their partners to know, what fearful avoidant men want their partners to know. And in today's video, we are going to talk about fearful avoidant men specifically and the top 5 or 6 things they really want you to know. So, number one is they struggle to trust. And this is usually rooted in that they didn't grow up with a lot of consistency, a lot of congruency. Sometimes there were broken promises or a lot of chaos. And so they couldn't really trust what it meant to attach. Maybe they saw things that were confusing, like having an alcoholic parent or seeing extreme fighting and arguments. And as a result of this, they tend to essentially assume that somebody is going to betray them eventually. And this causes them to essentially feel like love and connection is something they yearn for because they've had good experiences, but also something they're afraid of. In other words, they have conflicting ideas about love and relationships. And this causes them to be in this push pull pattern within the relationship to themselves. And they won't often express or articulate that to a partner, but instead, they'll just sort of push somebody away when they're really feeling that fear or those wounds. Number two, they can be very tough on the outside and they can be very passionate and headstrong, but they are still very sensitive on the inside. This is something that applies both to fearful avoidant men and women both. And we'll tend to see that sensitivity be actually a big part of what determines their actions and decisions about how to show up for relationships or how to communicate or operate within one. Number three, they do fear and project their fears onto the relationship and their future. Fearful avoidant men will often not be vulnerable. It can be really hard for them to express vulnerability. And usually you'll see their way of kind of expressing this vulnerability is by pulling away. They can be afraid of being hurt or left. They eventually tend to believe that people will essentially abandon them in a matter of time. They do have abandonment wounds and fears. They also have wounds and fears of being really close and then getting hurt by that. And all of these fears will be things that they tend to project onto the future of a relationship. And it does have an impact on how they behave. It does create this sort of push pull behavior in relationships. Number four, if they are pulling away, it's often because they're either exhausted emotionally because they haven't really set good emotional boundaries, and often they push themselves too much or are taking on too much, and this causes them to be burnt out, or they pull away when they are hurt or afraid. And this is because they're not really taught to communicate their emotions or their needs or their experience in a healthy way. And so often it happens and comes through in a more unhealthy way through pulling away or through actively pushing somebody away, which sort of has a similar effect. Before I get to the last one here, number five, I also want to say, if you are the loved one of a fearful avoidant, it's not your job to get everything right and to do everything perfectly so the relationship can sustain. It's definitely a two-party job, right? Both people have to be working on themselves and working within the relationship. But if you do want a roadmap that can just make the process much easier, I have a course down below, and I'll actually put the links to all of them. And it's all about the fearful avoidant with another attachment style. So whether that's with an anxious preoccupied or a DA or a securely attached style or another FA, you can actually access that course using the link down below. And it is your roadmap to all the pain points, challenges that will come up between those different attachment styles, how to communicate through them, mitigate them, work through them in terms of different core wounds, prevent them from coming back in the future. It's like your whole roadmap for relationship success, whether you're dating somebody or really far down the relationship dynamic. Like if you're, a couple years into the relationship, for example, it all applies.
So I just wanted to stop by here and let you know a really exciting announcement, and is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime memberships to the Personal Development School for Life. So I will tell you what's actually included in there. Number one, you get access to all of our different 60 plus courses. Everything about every single attachment style, how to reprogram, how to heal. We have courses in there about the 6 stages of relationships and how to navigate each stage. We have courses in there about how to get back together or heal relationships between different attachment styles and all of the steps for reconnecting. And we have all sorts of other courses on boundaries, conflict communication, setting and achieving goals at the subconscious level, seeing how attachment styles even show up in your workplace and how to navigate some of those different dynamics and heal those aspects of your attachment style. There's so many courses in there, but number 2 feature that we have, daily social support groups. So these are small groups that are all included in the lifetime membership. And we do daily events, sometimes even twice a day, where there will be, 10 people or so led by a trained counselor, coach, or facilitator. And you can actually join in there and practice some of the different tools with other members. It's a great place to build relationships, connect with like-minded people, and to really fast track your learning and have that extra support all the time. And number three, we have daily webinars Monday through Saturday. I do 3 of those webinars every single week. That's a time to come in, ask me your questions. You can come in on camera and we can chat. You can come in off camera and just post them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable doing. And we have other amazing counselors, coaches, facilitators who also lead other webinars. And again, those are slightly larger groups of people, but it's a great opportunity to connect with like-minded learners who also care about the same things: emotional connection, relationships, and personal growth. So I hope you check it out. We also have all these different discussion forums in there. We have a Facebook group, so you can connect with each other there as well. And there's a tremendous amount of community support in an ongoing way at PDS. So I would love to see you on the other side. I hope you join me. And now we'll go back to the video.
And also, I'm really excited to share with you that we've actually been working on an app for quite some time, and we're going to be launching that as well. So if you want to come in, check out our new app that we have to take all of your PDS courses from and all the new exciting features and benefits in there, check it out. That will also be included when you click the link down below. And last but not least, relationships for fearful avoidant attachment men tend to kind of make their demons come out the most and can be very tricky. I think it's sort of underestimated how hard relationships can be for fearful avoidant men. And it's because they often won't communicate that, right? So they'll usually like feel a lot of their fears or core wounds. They'll fear being trapped one day and abandoned the next. They'll fear being, shamed or unworthy one day or not good enough. And then another day they'll fear giving their power away by opening up because they feel scared to be vulnerable in a lot of different contexts. So it causes this really big sort of inner turbulence when it comes to their emotions. And they're in this push-pull space. And they're usually doing the absolute best they can with what's going on at the time, but they're being pulled in many different directions. Now, with that being said, it's also important that if you hear some of these things and you can relate and empathize with your fearful avoidant partner, the goal here is not to then weaponize your own empathy against yourself and violate your own boundaries. It's important to have your standards, your needs, your boundaries in a relationship and decide if it's a good fit. But hopefully, this can give you a little bit more of a peek into their inner world and some of the things they experience. And this is very much coming from the thousands of client sessions I've had over the years, and discussions I've had with fearful avoidance, even in PDS. So hopefully, this gives you some insight. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you do want to see more content specifically around fearful avoidant men, let me know in the comments down below or hit the like button. And I hope you consider subscribing to this channel. I would love to have you as a part of this community. Thank you so much for watching.